forget to like and subscribe.
And hit the notification bell
so we can go to college and get more knowledge.
Given the continued increase in Chinese influence in worldwide affairs and increase in plans to adopt CBDC worldwide, our legislation also prohibits any CBDC issued by a foreign reserve or government-sanctioned central bank. This will ensure that any effort to adopt a worldwide digital currency will never occur in the free
right
state
direction.
of Florida.
So instead of, Desantis coming out here and say, oh, we're going to make it illegal in Florida. How do you do that? All you're doing is you're just talking about bank reserves. Well, those aren't illegal. And by the way, if you're going to have a legal footing here, what's the legal difference between a bank reserve, which is a liability of the Fed, and a Federal Reserve note, i.e. cash? A trick question. Nothing. There is no difference. It's just one's a dollar liability of the Fed, the other is a dollar liability of the Fed. So if you're going to ban a central bank digital currency, you might also have to ban bank reserves, which would implode the banks in your state, and then you might also have to ban currency. You see, we're just we're chasing problems that don't exist, where instead I think it would be better to focus that attention on the core problem or preventing what is really the problem, and that is through, number one, focusing on the Federal Reserve Act, because I'm 99% sure the Federal Reserve Act states explicitly that those accounts at the Fed are only for banks. They cannot do business at a retail level. So just enforcing the laws that already exist on the books instead of saying it's illegal in Florida. Secondly, you've got to focus on that point of sale, because in order to pull off these social scores, carbon scores, assuming that we're rolling this out in a hybrid type of system where there's multiple forms of payment that you can choose, and I that's my base case, then the Ron DeSantis and Ted Cruz types have to focus on making sure within their state that it's never going to be a legal requirement for businesses to be plugged in to a Federal Reserve type of network.
And if we can get a groundswell of states to say, no, we are not going to turn over this power to you. I mean, look, ultimately, cash is king. I mean, if you can hold it in your hand, you have power over that. The minute it's all digitized, somebody else is going to have control over that. And it's just a question of, are they going to let you live your life? Or are they going to decide to do things to circumvent what you want to do?
The central planners and the Klaus Schwab types don't have to force this upon people. They don't have to force the tyranny on society. A lot of times, if they create enough fear, society demands the tyranny. And I think that's how they're going to, I think that's how it's going to pan out with this CBDC. So my point is, there's this hybrid, there's this transition phase where if you pay with cash or you pay with whatever, I'm sure some people might still have bank accounts at local banks, at commercial banks. And how does that work with the new Fed system? Well, I think that's when they're going to utilize fingerprints, they're going to utilize facial recognition, or here, we saw this in the news today. Panera Bread tests Amazon's palm scanning technology. So to pay for your order in Panera Bread in St. Louis, you'd have to have Amazon Pay or whatever it is, and then you just put your palm on the little scanner, and that would pay for the meal. Okay, well, regardless of how you pay, so you could pay with cash, or let's just assume for a moment that it wasn't hooked into this payment system, but they just did the palm thing to get your order or to start your order. You could pay with cash, you could pay with Bitcoin, you could pay with gold, you could pay with silver. It wouldn't matter. Because you gave them your palm, your fingerprint, your facial recognition, they would have all the data they needed to figure out or to calculate your social score based on that transaction. And so why is this important? Because I'm trying to make sure that the decision makers out there, the Ted Cruz's and Ron DeSantis's, of the world understand the plumbing, the mechanics behind a central bank digital currency. So they're actually targeting their efforts in the right direction. So instead of, Desantis coming out here and say, oh, we're going to make it illegal in Florida. How do you do that? All you're doing is you're just talking about bank reserves. Well, those aren't illegal. And by the way, if you're going to have a legal footing here, what's the legal difference between a bank reserve, which is a liability of the Fed, and a Federal Reserve note, i.e. cash? A trick question. Nothing. There is no difference. It's just one's a dollar liability of the Fed, the other is a dollar liability of the Fed. So if you're going to ban a central bank digital currency, you might also have to ban bank reserves, which would implode the banks in your state. And then you might also have to ban currency. You see, I think it's good that these guys are bringing attention to this. I think that's fantastic. So bravo there. But I'm concerned that because they obviously don't really understand how this works, and I would guess 99% of their constituents don't, that they're going to focusing all their time and attention over here. And because they're doing so, they inadvertently create a diversion for the central planners when they can just slide in through the back door, and before you even know it, we've got the system set up. But they're just not calling it a CBDC. They're just saying that, oh, well, the dollars are now a liability of the Fed. And then again, the Ron DeSantis types are going to wake up one morning and say, whoa, wait a minute. Why? How? What just happened here? How do all my constituents have a social score? Because, Ron, you're focusing on over here when you should be focusing over here because you don't understand the mechanics. That's why the nuance is important. And that's why I think they could roll out a CBDC without anyone knowing.